this is Joe Leigh here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by Sahni. This is a first of many, hopefully. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's the first time we've spoken on camera. I've done Danny before. Danny's the man. Yeah, good fun. How are you?
Yes, very good. Obviously, a good show this weekend. Headlined by, we believe, Hamzah Sheeraz. Obviously, he's the kind of, as you look at it right now, the future of BT Sport, potentially with a good award, Young Writers Award that he won this year as well.
Yeah, look, he's the man, mate. Young Boxer of the Year. I think he's going places. So many great fighters over the years have won that award and gone on to win world titles, like Amir Khan, Ricky Hatton, Prince Nassim Hamid, and Queensberry and BT believe in him. They back him, and he's in the toughest test of his career on Saturday night. This Francisco Torres isn't coming to mess about. His whole thing is, his selling point right now really is that he's come off that draw with Benavidez. I've watched that fight back, and a lot of people feel as though he won that fight, and he may have got robbed. And in the post-fight interviews, he was getting cheered and Benavidez was getting booed, so that sometimes gives you a bit of an indication. So he's also a bit of a boxer, this Torres fella. And Hamzah Sheeraz didn't have the easiest night against Bradley Skeet, who was also a bit of a boxer. And I think this is going to be a real tough test for him, but he can make a statement.
Some good promotion there, Dave. I'm more excited now after hearing that. But obviously you have Heffron versus Clark as well. Clark's had some good wins, but he's been the underdog a lot of his career in both of those fights. But this weekend, is he?
It's violence is what this fight is. I would make Lennox Clark just a slight favourite, but it's really close. I mean, I think he's the naturally bigger, thicker man. Heffron has been down as low as middleweight and didn't look great there. He said he wasn't great on the scales at middleweight. I'm not sure. I think Clark is the favourite, but what is Heffron going to be like at super middleweight again? That's where he was a bit of a bully, really. That's where on all the small hall shows he was knocking people out for fun. And let's see if he can do the same against Lennox Clark. It's going to be a tough ask for Mark Heffron. But a key thing here, he's now linked up with Joe Gallagher again. That's where he started his career. Joe Gallagher is one of the best trainers in the world. It's not just me saying that. Ring Magazine have said that in the past as well. With him in his corner, he's got as good a chance as he'll ever have.
Denzel Bentley, obviously mentioning Mark Heffron, makes me wonder what's next for him. Two-time British champion now at middleweight, and just come off the one of the best wins against Linus Udofia on Channel 5. What's next?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to speak to Frank or Francis to say the actual plan. But what I'll say about Denzel Bentley is we're going to use him on the Queensberry streams on Friday for the Sheeraz weigh-in, so he'll be alongside myself. And I think Denzel Bentley against Hamzah Sheeraz at some point in the future is a mouth-watering fight. I just saw your jaw drop. My jaw dropped. Yeah? Yeah? Wow, it's a great fight. But there's fights for him in the stable as well. There's obviously, you can push him on towards world honours, which I'm sure he'll want to do. There's Nathan Heaney knocking about as well. And at some point, Nathan Heaney is going to fight at Stoke. That's going to happen. And he needs a big fight. What if it was for the British title against Denzel Bentley? What a fight that would be. So there's plenty going on and plenty of options for Denzel Bentley. I'm excited to see what happens next. We'll have a good chat with him later on in the week as well, live on the Queensberry YouTube. So make sure you watch that.
I hope you're going to be pressuring him about those fights you've just mentioned.
100%. Look, this is what I do. I essentially just stir it up. So you'll see we had it for Andrew Kane's weigh-in. We had Liam Davis sort of next to me, and then they just started kicking off with each other. Great. Had Adelaide and Joyce. I mean, they're not going to kick off, different stages. But it's good. So I think the idea of putting Denzel Bentley and Hamzah Sheeraz in the same frame just starts that conversation. People start putting it together, and that's a great fight down the line.
The funniest one was the Dillian Whyte and John Fury not knowing who he was.
Amazing. I still, I've watched that back, obviously, a lot. I feel as though he did know. I think maybe when he walked past initially, he thought, oh, is that Steve Bunce? Oh, it's John Fury. And then when he was asked about it, he said, oh, I thought it was Steve Bunce. I think he sort of went along with the joke kind of thing. But it was an iconic moment, which I will forever be linked to. And, yeah, it was really good fun.
Staying on the Fury, Tommy Fury, obviously, the fight's off. What's the latest with Tommy?
I don't know. I mean, he's fighting someone else now, isn't he, Jake Paul? So Tommy's put out statements saying, why it didn't happen. He couldn't get in the country, and that is where we are. Hopefully, at some point, it can happen. It's still, I think, the biggest fight out there for Jake Paul that can be made. It's the biggest fight out there for Tommy Fury that can be made. Obviously, the camps are always in talks, and hopefully, we do get to see it at some point.
From what you know, is that issue gonna be sorted for when he can fight out in the US again, or when he wants to fight in the US again? Can he fight in the US? Like, can he go over now? Like, is anything sorted? Or
I don't know. I know he was there in May, so he was there. He was in LA, and he was all set to go out to New York. I was with him. I was in the airport. I was going to be going out with him, and computer says no. So I believe he's got to see the embassy. You don't just rock up and see the embassy, knock on the door and say, "Hey, can you sort me out?" There's a process. That process has to be followed, and it sounds like it hasn't been followed in a quick enough for August the 6th. It's come a bit too quick, but hopefully it's something that can happen in the future.
Good stuff. And then last one, obviously, there's been a lot of talk on Twitter where most of the stuff happens in the boxing world about the fact that there's a lot of UK promoters right now, and that's making the shows weaker because there's 3 bigger promotions now. Obviously, with Eddie leaving Sky and then Ben Shalom Boxer joining, it means that all 3 promoters now have weaker shows.
Yeah, look, I mean, every promoter has their TV deal. That's where the money comes from. So BT Sport will give Frank a big budget to go and make fights for BT Sport. The same will happen with DAZN and Eddie and Ben Shalom and Sky. So it's sort of not really in their interest to then build up a fighter and then deliver him to another network. I can understand that from a promoter's perspective. I can understand from a fan's perspective as well. And this is where it's good to have, the British Boxing Board of Control ordering fights for British titles. You get, world governing bodies. This is, they get a lot of stick, but this is where they are quite vital, actually, because they will order. You've got to fight your mandatory. That mandatory is on another channel. If you can't do a deal, it's purse bid. So these things can get sorted out. Dillian Whyte has never boxed on BT Sport before. He just fought on BT Sport box office. These things happen. That's kind of where we are with it. The more channels there are, unfortunately, you are going to see a little bit of a spread there, but that's where the board and the governing bodies step in. Fighters get sent up different rankings and all that, and you might meet someone from another promoter, and then the highest bidder wins, and you get to show that fight.
Well, it's been good to chat to you, Dev, for the first time. BT Sport this Saturday, tune in.
Tune in Saturday night. I mean, it's not just Hamzah Sheeraz against Francisco Torres. What about Nick Ball? Nick Ball just lit up Wembley Stadium, a breakout performance against Isaac Lowe. He knocked him out. He knocked out Isaac Lowe. Isaac Lowe wants the rematch. He's commenting every time on Instagram and Twitter saying he wants to do it again, and maybe he will at some point. But Nick Ball was British boxing's best kept secret. The secret's out, and he's going to light up the copper box on Saturday. He was meant to be fighting Nathaniel Collins, the Commonwealth champion. Fortunately, that fight couldn't happen, so he's fighting another Nathaniel. So, swapped him out. But this guy's quite tough. And Dennis McCann, step-up fight. Not just a step up in weight, who's going up to featherweight, but a bit of a step up in level as well. James Beach, we've seen him in against Chris Bork. We've seen him in against Brad Foster. Always gives a very good account of himself. And he's very difficult to get out of there. He's never been stopped. So this is a real challenge for Dennis McCann on Saturday. I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, obviously Heffron against Clark is just violence. Absolute violence. And I like violence. So I'll be there. I'm sure you'll be tuning in. I'm sure you'll be tuning in as well.